If you clicked on this video, it's likely because you're a high school student looking to get into the University of Wisconsin. And oh boy, you've come to the right place. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jackson Walker, and in addition to being a graduate of the University of Wisconsin, I was also a former admissions representative, which means I had a hands-on experience with the admissions process at UW. I personally helped guide hundreds, if not thousands, of students to getting accepted to the university. I want to start by saying this is advice only. This is not a step-by-step guide, so do not be upset at me if you try all this and it doesn't work. UW is a competitive place, but hopefully if you follow the advice that I lay out in this video, it should turn out well for you. It's important to clarify that I'm going to be talking about regular admission domestic students. I'm not going to be talking about transfer admissions, and I'm not going to be talking about international admissions. Now, what are the admissions officers looking for in prospective students? They're looking for people who will accept an offer of admission if given, and secondly, they're looking for people who will succeed once they accept that offer of admission. That is it. So I'm going to start off with my first tip here, and this tip is write a good essay. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, I'm going to be engineering. You know, I don't need to know how to write, but you absolutely do, and here's why. UW is a very competitive school, and one of those reasons is because there are so many high achievers coming out of high school. We've had people call us, email us before in the Office of Admissions and say things like, why didn't I get in? I had a 36 ACT and a 4.0 GPA, and the unfortunate answer is so does every other applicant. So the thing that's really going to distinguish you in the eyes of the admissions officers is your essay. When you're writing your essay, it's important to keep in mind that you are trying to tell us things we don't already know. Don't talk about jump around, Camp Randall, Bucky Badger, how beautiful the campus is. Don't talk about any of that stuff in your essay because the admissions officers already know that. What they want to know about you in your essay is what makes this school right for you. Tell them something about you that they cannot get from your statistics, like your grades. When I was writing my essays to UW, I included that I wanted to be in the marching band. For the longest time, that was a huge dream of mine. I wanted to be in that marching band. And so I wrote that into my essay. I said, if I came to campus, that would be one of the things that I would explore is this kind of passion for music that I have. Take some time and really focus in applying just to UW, not applying to college broadly, but make it so that your application appears as though you are bent on going to Wisconsin. Just Wisconsin. Don't tell them what you think they want you to say. I remember you'd be reading an application and it's pretty easy to tell this person is kind of like pandering to you. Just explain as if you're talking to another person, why is this school right for you? The point of your essay should be to convince the admissions officers that there's nowhere else that you want to be. There's nowhere else that you would succeed except for right here. So if you're writing your essay and you sound kind of non-committal, or maybe you have some spelling mistakes, maybe you addressed it to another university, maybe it's pretty clear that this is your blanket essay that you're sending everywhere, you might not get in. You really need to tailor this essay to the school because they are looking for those people that are going to accept that offer of admissions. I cannot believe I have to say this, but do not involve your parents in the application process. Not only does it needlessly complicate things, but it also makes it a lot harder for us to do our job at the Office of Admissions because we can't tell your parents anything. There's a lot of laws governing privacy rules when a student sends their information to a college, what they can share and what they can't, even if a student is younger than 18. You would be surprised the amount of people that we see ask their parents to help them, or even just parents that are applying for their student that doesn't want to or won't do it themselves. An application process is sort of a model for the types of assignments you'd see in college. I mean, there's writing assignments, there's reading assignments, there's deadlines, turning in paperwork on time and to the right people, and being able to do those things in a timely manner and doing it on your own and executing it to a high level is another way to show that you will succeed in college. And that's some of the things that admissions officers like to see. When getting your letters of recommendation together, make sure to get them from a lot of different sources, and make sure, of course, that they are academic sources. We'll have a lot of people have like a church mentor or maybe a neighbor or maybe even an employer write a letter of recommendation, and those cannot be accepted as your primary letter of recommendation because they have to be from an academic source such as a teacher. What I did, my strategy, and I think this was a pretty good approach, is I asked, I think, 5 teachers to write letters, and they were teachers across my high school experience. I sort of got to have my pick of which one was the best. When I was in the Office of Admissions, we had a change in protocol in which we didn't require the ACT. A lot of people would call us and ask, should I send in my ACT scores? And the answer is most often yes. Usually the advice that we would offer people in those situations is that if you think your ACT score is an accurate representation of who you are as a student, you should send it in, because admissions officers use the ACT or any of those standardized tests to determine how successful you will be in your first year of college, and that's it. Literally, a higher score on the ACT means you will be more successful as a freshman versus a lower score. That being said, though, the scores are not the most important thing. So if you take the ACT and your score doesn't match up with where you think it should be to get into that school, you should still send it in. I am a prime example of this. I believe the average for campus ACT scores are between 29 and 32, and I was admitted with a 26. It's not impossible to say that you could get in with a lower score, although it certainly doesn't hurt to have a higher score. Your major doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. So admission to UW-Madison is separate from admission to the individual schools. And a lot of people would ask us this because they want to apply to the competitive programs such as engineering and business. So if you apply to the school and you apply for your first choice major as engineering, you can still get accepted into UW and get denied that engineering spot. And that's not the end of the world that happens, because you can always take another path towards that major. So say, for example, you wanted to be an engineer so bad, but you just didn't make the engineering school. You can reapply once you're at UW, and by the time you're in that position anyways, you might have learned so many new different things that maybe you want to explore a different major. Who knows? College is an opportunity to really explore those things, and you shouldn't feel too defeated if you don't get that major that you want. Another thing to consider when applying to UW is which application period you want to apply to. Now, there's two application periods. There's your early action period. That's going to start in about September, and then there's your regular action, which is going to be January-ish until like March or April, somewhere in there. Your early action, obviously you're going to get read first by those admissions counselors if you submit early. Also, it provides the opportunity to be deferred. In the regular admissions process, there's an admit, there's a deny, and there's a deferral. And a deferral essentially means that you're somebody that could be a strong candidate for the school, but the admissions officers, for whatever reason, have decided that they want to see more information from you. So this could include sending in accolades towards the end of your senior year, updates on your achievements, your grades, things like that, maybe working to get a couple of your grades higher. Those are all things that the admissions officers are looking to see, and oftentimes deferrals can turn into acceptances in the case that those who were accepted don't take that offer, they decline it. So that is a really good opportunity for you, especially if you're a candidate that you're thinking you're not as competitive for the school. Definitely gun for that early action period in which you can have an opportunity to get read first and have that deferral on the table. The same option is not available during regular action. The only options you can get during regular action are admit, deny, or waitlist. And waitlist is different than deferral. It doesn't have the same implications necessarily. If you get put on the waitlist, there's a very, very, very small chance that you will get admitted to the school. There's usually like a 2 or 3% acceptance rate off the waitlist, but it is an option to still try to get in if you didn't get that admittance that you wanted. In the worst case scenario, I've seen people apply early action, get deferred, and then that deferral transfers them over to the spring semester, that regular admissions. They get considered through that regular admissions, then get waitlisted again, and it's a very lengthy process and can be kind of frustrating to some people, which is why during the application process you have to have patience and you have to be able to know that the result of the admissions decision does not define who you are. There are going to be people who will apply to UW and will not get the answer that they want. They will be denied, and that's just a certainty. Just because you weren't right for UW doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. There are still plenty of opportunities. I've heard of people that get denied from UW but still go on to do bigger and better things at different colleges, and there's always the opportunity to reapply or even transfer. If you're a Wisconsin resident or somebody that lives close to Wisconsin, and I believe Minnesota still has that reciprocity, if you're one of those people, you have the opportunity to attend a UW system school, and if you stay at that school for 2 years and and sign a transfer agreement as well as get a certain GPA, you can actually get guaranteed transfer status to UW-Madison by your sophomore year. There are also some other opportunities for people who attend Madison Tech. That's one of the local schools in the area that's not affiliated with UW. You can also get that guaranteed transfer program there. There are a lot of people who transfer to UW, a ton of people, and there's a really robust transfer program there. There are advisors specifically devoted to transfer students, and you would have a lot of support because there's a big transfer community at UW just because of how big a school it is. I really hope that you guys were able to take something away from this video, and I wish you good luck in the application process. If you learned something that helped you out during that application process, go ahead and let me know down below. Other than that, we'll see you next time with some hopefully not as academically focused content.